makes our eyes tear up a little bit. I think it's so important that we have these records for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and the 100th Roberts family anniversary, because who really knew we'd get this far? It was kind of started on a fluke. Camille knew that there were plenty of children in this family, and so she did a little bit of organizing, and look at all of us now. So I'm really happy to see everyone. It warms my heart. You have no idea. Even if maybe I don't remember everybody's name, I can't forget your face. You all have the same one. So I'm going to read something that my mother wrote. Here we go. And it's entitled Granny's House. Of course, the residents of Hildreth and Camille Roberts, 413 West 60th Place. Sorry, here we go. The microphone does make it a little hard. I'll do my best. Granny's house got its name not because there was no grandpa, but, oh no, I can't ask you to thank you. Not because there was no grandpa, but because Granny was always the center of our family's life. She always told us we had to get Grandpa's permission to do anything, but Grandpa always told us to ask Granny. So of course, Granny always ended up making the decisions. Grandpa just worked to keep the bills paid and smiled with quiet pride until we got too noisy. We used to say we didn't know what would happen to us if there were no Granny. My guess is we were deeply concerned about where we could go for a free meal. I thank heaven every day because my life has been richer and filled with my grandmother's love. Life at Granny's was an everyday party, not because it was planned that way, but because of Granny. She had a strong sense of justice and fair play, plus her deeply rooted faith in God, all combined to create a woman who, though small in stature, is bigger than life, and a home so full of love that it nurtured 5 children, 7 grandchildren, 17 great-grandchildren, and 5 great-great-grandchildren. Yes, ma'am? When I think about the noise in Granny's house at family gatherings caused by such a large group of people, I smile. She is, in her own words, truly rich as Rockefeller. When I was growing up, our family's favorite place to gather was my grandparents' house. Our family lived in a house across the street. My cousins lived upstairs over our grandparents, and my other cousins lived downstairs. Gathering at Granny's was a common event for all of us. Granny's backyard was our playground, and for our friends, her house was the dewdrop inn. For as long as I can remember, there has always been somebody, usually Granny, at Granny's house. It didn't matter what time of day or night, you could always find a hot meal, a shoulder to cry on, or somebody to share your joy. The antiques in the curio and the crystal in the china cabinet all reflect her taste and sense of style. Her home is so filled with her presence, it could only be called Granny's house. No other name would do it justice. It's funny though, I know Granny worked outside her home all of my young life, and yet there was never a time I can remember her house being empty. I, like the rest of the family, believe Granny will always be there. Every great triumph in both my childhood and my adult life was made better because of Granny. From my first success in grade school to the birth of my own precious children, I was warmed by her joy. To this day, I marvel at her capacity to love. I remember asking her how a mother could love more than one child when she'd already given that child all the love she had. She just smiled her Granny smile and said, "You love all your children equally, but your love meets the needs of each child. Some children need more than others, while some need less, but you love them all the same." At the time, I thought it sounded good, but I didn't think I could ever love another child as much as my first. I was wrong, of course, and Granny in her infinite wisdom was right. Family meals at Granny's house were as close to gluttony as one could get without breaking the commandment. Every major event in my life was celebrated around the dinner table. The array of food was always mind-boggling. From Sunday brunches with fried chicken, baked Virginia ham, eggs, biscuits, pancakes, grits, bacon, sausage, homemade coffee cakes, to evening meals, which usually required a 20-minute break after brunch to allow time for your food to settle. And of course, with good food, there was always stimulating conversation. Conversation was an integral part of life at Granny's house. That's where you went to catch up on family gossip, after sitting around the dinner table for hours, and after the guests were gone. Look out, the free-for-all began. Everybody was fair game, as long as they'd already left the house. Ma, Amy, Gloria, T. Rosa, and all the rest of us would fill the air above the table with outrageous laughter about one person or another. If you wanted to be exempt from the gossip mongers, you had to be among the last to leave. And in all fairness to Granny, I must admit, by the time she had curled up on the couch and fallen into deep sleep, for which she was always apologized. To say the dinner, or any meal for that matter, at Granny's house was a major event in our lives is a huge understatement. We as a family are tied to Granny's dinner table with Belgian lace dinner napkins. It's a rare occasion when one of us will voluntarily miss dinner with the family. In fact, it's tantamount to being AWOL from the military. Besides, they'll talk about you when you're not there. Who in their right mind would want that? Let me pause here and clarify. Granny bestowed upon us the best set of morals and values the Church of God in Christ had to offer. I humbly submit she did her best. But let's be real, we're still human, and let's face it, some bad habits are hard to break. Thank you so much, sir. This concludes this particular set of memories.